Greetings, everyone. Welcome to your living, moving Swedenborgian community online. Your affirming interfaith community, grounded in a mystical Christianity that believes that no matter your faith tradition or perspective, that God, divinity, moves through you, empowering your life, empowering your healthy living, your goodness, and your love. Some people may call God the higher power, the universe. Some don't have a word for God at all, may not even think they believe in God, because often the ideas of God that we share with each other aren't always the healthiest or the highest. So whether the higher power to you is the universe, is just goodness and life, your willingness to approach your living and connecting in a rational way, I think we can all join together and reflect on ways to improve this world for the better of each other, the betterment of our communities and societies, breaching gaps, and seeing that although we may seem far apart with different words for maybe similar things, and different ideas expressing what it means to be alive, we're actually not as different as we might think. So come on with me here at the Church of Good Shepherd, and we'll reflect on what it means to empathize and how empathy has been shown to heal relationships and has promise of healing our world. So I am recording as usual for our online community. I invite you to check it out from time to time. On YouTube, on Facebook. Our website is called Swedenborgiancommunity.org. And it's interesting with the kids, I always feel shy myself. I don't know if it's apparent. I'm afraid of getting their names wrong. I'm afraid of not remembering the right things. But like any relationship, it's a work in progress. And I think, as our message today highlights, it's a worthwhile one to care about each other, to learn more about each other, and to empathize. Now, humane is a word that we often use to describe humanity at its very best. In a sense, it's most human. Often we say someone's humane as they show that they are caring, that they're wise in that caring as well. And it's beautiful to me to think that human, is an attribute that we can grow into, that we, in a sense, evolve the more we're willing to be altruistic, loving, and peaceful. However, as we all know, our world often behaves inhumanely. We often aren't the best of friends, of family members, partners. Even worse, we tend to use our own selfish leanings to judge and dominate. Not really recognizing that we are human in the most mundane sense as well. We're all finite. We all have room to grow, limited capacity. We are impacted by our emotions, by our day, our work. Often we just want it our way. And to the extent it's not, we hold a judgment within. We hold a type of hurtful judgment often. Now, that's not just true for other people, that's true for ourselves. We tend to internalize the judgments of others, the inhumaneness of others. When we're kids and we're treated poorly, we tend to build up defenses. They didn't hold my anger very well, so I can't show my anger. We may even come to think, well, I'm never angry, but then we do this, or we behave this way to kind of work around it, to project it, or to transform it into something that we can do. When in actuality, it would be healthier if we were to accept that sometimes, yes, we have some anger, we have some hurt, and other ideas and affections that we sometimes feel we have to hide, even from ourselves. Today we often act as a society as though we're not human. We hear it more and more in the news about different workplaces that measure how people's eyes move even, but mainly like how they move within the workspace. How much time are they spending near the water cooler? How long are they talking even? There's these gadgets that a company or two at least have employed to measure how much someone's talking throughout the day, where they are they at their desk? And it's kind of fascinating to think that that's the trend in our industrialized nations, that places like Amazon and their warehouses are going to essentially reduce everyone down to how perfectly productive they are. And I think we all know where this is going. Why do you need humans for a lot of our jobs? We already see it happening. A lot of our work, even our specialized work, is able to be replaced by something you could say almost perfectly productive, a robot. But what do we do in the midst of that? We have the greatest production ever, but people are losing their jobs. People are being treated, in a sense, inhumanely by our system. In a village, if we were a village, if you discovered a new way to make the crop easier, that wouldn't mean half the village starves, would it? If we were to find out a way to protect ourselves from lions without some of the hunters of our group, we wouldn't kick them out of the village. We wouldn't say, well, you can't afford your hut anymore. No, a village uses increased production, uses advances to serve all the people, not just the leader or a CEO, not just the one who comes up with it, although in our society we often don't treat our discoverers very well either, because they tend to work under someone. And so it's interesting to think that we are the most productive as a species we've ever been, as far as we can tell, in terms of doodads and gadgets. And yet we are treating each other as inhumanely as we ever have as well. So Scripture calls on us to improve, each of us personally and as a society, to improve our humanity, our humaneness, our empathy, to reflect on the ways that we're not looking at other people like they're human, and change, not just through our own power, but realizing truly that we're empowered by God. That although we seem finite, in a sense we are in any given moment, limited, we are empowered by something that isn't limited. And the more we're willing to use it for God's work, I think, the more empowerment each of us, even alone, can receive. God is with us, caring for us in the way that He hopes for us to care for others. As we talked about with the kids, God, in a sense, looks at our face all day. It's discerning of each twitch, but even deeper, right, of course. God is the source of our consciousness, the source of our life, our love, at least the root, true love within us. And knows everything that's going on, physically, mentally, spiritually, and cares more than we could care about ourselves or others. It's somewhat comforting for me to think that God cares. I don't always live up to my high ideal of myself, what I would like to do. I'm like, well, okay, there's next week, there's tomorrow. But God is still with me, with us, caring, saying, yeah, there is room to grow. Thank you for noticing that you can grow. God values us as we are and wants to encourage our awareness that He's with us, that He is empowering us to be more and more humane. Emanuel Swedenborg, the 18th century mystical thinker, he was a scientist for most of his life, worked in the government in Sweden. In fact, he was part of the House of Nobility in Sweden. And he was actually quite famous for his day because he was really productive. He wrote tons of books. We think there's a lot of spiritual books that he put out. Maybe if you put them in a stack, they'd be taller than this, with as small a print as you would hope to read. And yet his scientific works even outnumber that. His tomes and tomes of reflective scientific investigation actually credit him much fame because he came up with some interesting discoveries or theories at the time, many of which we've come to affirm. Things about the brain, things about the solar system, how physics work. He was one of the earliest to say, no, the atom, what you would call the atom, and we hadn't discovered the actual, what we call the atom today yet, but what they were calling the atom, he said, isn't the smallest thing. It actually goes smaller and smaller and smaller towards infinity. In fact, the smaller you get, the more beautiful and, in a sense, wondrous it becomes because it represents God in these deeper symbolic ways. Things that are way over my head even today. He was writing about it. He was helping to produce and share. And yet, at some point in his life, he said, well, no. I've kind of gone off the rails here a little bit. There's actually something even more important than all this production. And it's knowing God. It's knowing that God cares about us. I see he saw religion in his day that often wasn't very caring, wasn't very patient with our humanity. And he wanted to clarify that. He wanted to put it out there that, it's in our scriptures. It's in many other traditions as well. God is love. God is caring. God is empathetic and wants to uplift us. And I think it's interesting that that's what he turned to in the end. That he wanted to uplift not only an awareness of God's empathy and care in our minds, but actually invite us to embody it, to receive it, acknowledging that it comes from a higher source. And he thought that might change our world. Interestingly enough, recently my personal studies have kind of touched on psychotherapy and psychiatry. And I was listening to a podcast by a Dr. David Puder called Psychiatry and Psychotherapy Podcast, straight to the point. And in one of the recent episodes, he focuses on empathy. And part of the reason he focuses on empathy in this episode, because research tells us it is one of the most powerful tools for healing between people, for healing personal issues. What is empathy? Well, empathy is the ability, according to him, to understand another state of mind or emotions. It is also being able to feel, understand, and share with someone else in what they are saying, their meaning of life, their motivations and values. And in a sense, all the things that make us, what we bring to the table every day, even the things that are maybe more subconscious, all the things that God is paying attention to as he, as she, uplifts our spirit and finds ways to inspire us to greater love, kindness, and wisdom. And according to research, the research that Dr. Puder highlights, empathy, having empathy, is one of two key attributes found to have a lasting, helpful impact in therapeutic relationships. Not theory, not age, or even years under the profession. Highest qualifications, no. Caseload, no. Degree of theoretical integration, not. Gender, no. I'm guessing race, no. No, it was how much does that therapist empathize with their patients? And how much do they work on empathizing, work on specific therapeutic skills? Those two things alone. Seems fascinating. For Dr. Puder, he believed that a therapist relationship is just that, a relationship. Often I think of a session with a therapist as a kind of, feedback loop or something where a therapist kind of allows you to share and maybe gives you some advice. And in a way, there's parts of that. A lot of listening. But according to the research, it's the empathizing. It's the listening attentively to the feelings and emotions and somewhat embodying that empathy, connecting, that has a lasting positive impact. And to me, this transcends therapy. That's humanity. That's life. If that's the only thing working on a therapist's couch, then I think it has hope to work for us as we try to mend our relationships, but also just our lives, personally. Being empathetic helps others, and inviting empathy from them helps us. Indeed, Swedenborg would say being empathetic helps you as well, just trying to be empathetic. And I think it's beautiful, in a sense, to envision that with all the rifts in society today, in politics, interpersonally, that the thing that might heal us is being willing to look and care, to listen a little more. It often involves a lot of patience, involves a little giving up of ourselves. It's hard to empathize with someone else if we're just, thinking about ourselves or projecting kind of our own issues onto them. The things we don't often want to see in ourselves, we often kind of key into in other people. We can't help it. There are the things that bother us in our neighbors and our friends and those we don't know. To recognize that, even in the worst of humanity, there's an element of me. I can sometimes wish other people disappeared, never murdered anyone. But humans do that. Wow. It's easy to want to just kind of shut them away. Maybe that's healthy in a sense. But what do we do with these people that are locked up? We don't let them just drop, as that paper just did. And if they do drop, it's still there for us to pick up. It's not the end of the road. I truly think if we learn from something like psychotherapy, learn that it takes empathy to heal, perhaps that might transform how we treat our prisoners, becoming more towards a state of rehabilitation than a state of imprisonment. How we treat each other. There are many people walking around today that don't feel cared for at all. Don't know that God cares for them. Don't think that you could care for them. And if we started to integrate empathy into our lives, into our societies, perhaps we'll see healing beyond what we could have ever imagined. So, to finish up the nerdiness in just a moment, I want to highlight that there are 3 types of empathy. There's cognitive, there's affective, and compassionate empathy. Cognitive is, in a sense, taking another person's perspective. Just intentionally saying, you know what, I'm going to try to see it from their eyes. Affective empathy is by feeling a sense of togetherness or sharing an emotional experience together. Something we can all relate to with our family and friends, I hope. And also being willing to see that we're not very far apart. And then compassionate empathy is sympathizing or compassionately being concerned with others' perspectives. So actually saying, this is important, others' perspectives. We always have room to grow in that. There's a balance between our own and others. Balance between our roles and others. But truly, that's an enabling and empowering mode of being. Empathy in general is, in a sense, what God does all the time and what allows divinity to try to promote our humaneness and our humanity. So, I invite us to go forward being a little bit more attuned to each other, caring a little bit more about how other people feel, not emoting in such a way that we always get caught up in other people's emotions. We often hear that is empathy, or that is a mode of being that an empathizer takes on, that we're always caught up in other people's emotions. No, I don't think so. I think understanding and somewhat responding, sharing in the feeling, yes, but not being caught up. In a sense, that's true for ourselves as well. The Lord commands us to love God with all our heart, mind, spirit, but also to love our neighbors as ourselves. Within that, yes, is empathizing, is caring for others, but also with ourselves. There's a balance to be had. Love others as much as yourself. That's a command, an invitation towards more humanity, more humaneness. We're not always attuned to how we're feeling or why. We think we're reacting to what we're seeing, when in fact it ties back to a history, to a vein of experience that is hard for us. Often we project emotions and letdowns we had with past friends of different stripes, of leaders, and then we project it on to future friends. It's natural. It's one of the key things that therapists try to help us work through. You know, are you sure I'm the best therapist ever? We've only seen each other twice, right? Are you sure I'm as horrible as you think I am? That's, in a sense, what they're uplifting, but that's often not what we say when we empathize. No, in a sense, when we empathize, we're open to the experience as it is, normalizing each other's issues, being open to our personal expressions, not just shutting each other down. Well, I didn't do that, so don't feel that way. It's, you know what, I could see why you would feel that way. I hope we can discern more about that together. I think that's what God does with us. God doesn't shut us down very often. Doesn't force His divine thoughts onto us. Even when they're negative towards him. So many people hate on divinity or even the idea of God, and yet we're so touchy when other people don't love us as much as we think we should be. I think it's actually natural to feel that way. But realizing that God is experiencing those issues with us, that God is also not valued the way she should be, is empowering in a sense. Because we realize that our experience is shared throughout humanity and with divinity. Now let us close our eyes and open our hands as we feel called, taking a few deep breaths. Allowing the breathing and the music to bring us in to the present moment of receptivity and of worship.
surprise. But look how they respect you. They see wisdom in your eyes. You are young, but you are strong. Take your place where you belong. You were born to be a woman of the land. So place the silver wedding birch upon the altar now. You've seen it done 100 times. You know exactly how. 100,000 women in your ancient memory sing a song of long ago to a woman yet to be. 100,000 women. 100,000 women. 100,000 women. 100,000
Well, that was beautiful music from Lori Turley. And with that, let us turn with a meditative lens to our own worship, thinking about the things in our lives that inspire us day to day, and how often the things that speak to us, even our worst habits, honestly, bring us into the present moment, help us to engage with life. Speaking of bad habits, often we develop them because we want to hide away from emotions that we haven't been able to express fully before. We tend to also develop bad habits because we didn't know how to express emotions where there was no good outlet, ideas, affections. And so we pick these things up from an early age, and at some point we realize, well, this isn't really serving me, but how can I move on? How do I break free? Often we may not even think it's worth breaking free, it's worth moving on, because we say, well, it may not be the best for others, but look how it's working out for me, I'm pretty happy about it. Well, as we reflected on today, empathy helps us to realize that the impact on others that we have is also an impact that we share for ourselves, that we truly become happier and more at peace the more we're willing to engage and take honestly and passionately other people's passions, other people's emotions and feelings. So I invite you, as we listen to another song, this one from Justine Lucas, to reflect on the ways that you might grow in your habits, the things that you have used for your own development and peace, and how you may magnify them. You indeed might have many things that you'd like to employ more because you've noticed how helpful they are, whether it's a meditation, whether it's an artful practice. So just take a mental catalog of both, the things that aren't serving and the things that served you well, as well as the things that serve you well that you want to employ more of as we listen.
If you blink, if you yawn, as you're driving down from Salt Lake City, if you're looking at your meter, you will miss this town. Nevada, oh, Nevada, come from a high desert town in Nevada, ooh, Nevada, and so I sing for Battle Mountain. He'd never seen the ocean coast the first time he lay his body in the sand. He looked as though he'd seen a ghost. Idaho, Idaho, how many there have only known ya? Idaho, sing for you to Tonia.
Well, that's it for us, folks. Thanks for joining me at the Church of the Good Shepherd. We are your affirming interfaith online community, Swedenborgian community online. If you want to reach out, please do. You can connect with us wherever you find this, hopefully. And we're also on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We have a website, Swedenborgiancommunity.org, that we're continuing to improve on because we want to move to wherever you are at, engaging you in the ways that are effective for you. So let us know how that's working out. And please subscribe, please follow us, and go forth knowing you are quite loved. Bye.